First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today and for John Lewandowski arranging this, as well as Warhawk Sports Property for having the meal catered. I'm very appreciative of that. But just to kind of kick things off, that really excited. This obviously our fourth year and now 3 recruiting classes since I arrived in April of 2014. I know, as a coach, and we're, I think, about 20-some practices in, one thing that's really evident in compared to past seasons, more overall depth than what we've had in previous years, positions 1 through 5. And I think the other thing that we see on a regular basis, offensively, we have more kids that can just make plays. We don't find ourselves maybe having to manufacture shots maybe as much we've had to in the past, and a little more versatility, I think, and we're still a work in progress, certainly both offensively and defensively, but it is encouraging just to, like I said, to have the ability to kind of create shots on their own, and of course you need that especially late in the shot clock. But I think the other thing that we've really noticed, and you definitely see this on the defensive end, is just a little more size in general. I think we've placed an emphasis from a recruiting standpoint of trying to be a little longer, especially in the wing positions, and we're seeing that, and I think it's going to allow us to be a little more successful defensively, hopefully be a little bit more active, and particularly when we play a zone defense. But a couple of injuries have set us back a little bit. Carissa Moody, who started the majority of the games last year as a freshman, had a couple of 20-point games as a freshman, had a pretty good freshman year, has had a stress fracture in her big toe, so she's still going to be out a few more weeks, but we're looking forward to her return. Unfortunately, Tiara Malone, an incoming freshman who was off to a terrific start, both in the preseason in July and in the first couple weeks of September, unfortunately tore her ACL, so she'll be out for the season, but still, expecting big things from Tiara. So we're just kind of now rounding into better health with 13 players available right now. So, but again, encouraged by the depth that we have. I think it's realistic that we could have as many as 10 players, playing double-figure minutes. Don't necessarily see a set starting lineup. With that, a number of new players. We have 6 incoming freshmen. I would say arguably at least 4 of those I think have already kind of carved out a role in the rotation in no particular order. Diamond Brooks, post player from Jewel Sumner High School, her junior year, won state championship. She was actually the MVP of the state tournament. It's kind of definitely a low post presence for us. Whitney Goins from Anacoco, 5'10" wing, has really been coming on of late as well, encouraged by her development. And then 2 freshman guards, both from Douglasville, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, in Ursula Clark and Brianna Stevens. And they're both combo guards, so they'll play a little bit at the point, a little bit of the 2. Both have the ability, as I said, to get into the paint, create for themselves, create for others, so that's really encouraging as well. 2 junior college transfers in Tan Walker, played at Shelton State, junior college powerhouse, really. Both her freshman, sophomore years there, they won 30-plus games, made it to the Final Four of the National JUCO tournament. Left-handed, so you can kind of do some things with her a little bit differently. Pretty good inside-outside game. And then Alexis Johnson, a junior college transfer from Dodge City in Kansas, really good 3-point shooter. And then finally, one young lady who's new to playing for us but redshirted this past year in Jessica Harris. And Jess is a 5'10" transfer from Mount St. Mary's. Her first 2 years there averaged in double figures. Kind of a versatile 2, 3, 4 type player. And offensively, we're going to be doing a lot of things through Jess and Gabby Cortez as well. So we're excited to have her on the floor this year and the impact that she can make, I think, really in all 3 phases, offensively, defensively, and rebounding. So right now, I would say in our rotation, it's safe to say that probably as many as 6 or 7 new players in our rotation. Obviously, that's exciting. At the same time, we know we're by no means are we a finished product, and like I said, still a work in progress. But I think we're really encouraged by what we've seen, and particularly in the last week. We've had 2 Division I scrimmages. We're a little bit limited in what you can say exactly, but the first one didn't go as well as we would have hoped. Admittedly, it was a veteran team with all 5 starters back, their top 8 returning scorers back from last year, and they are picked to win their league. But I think we learned a lot, and that's as much as anything you can ask. If you don't necessarily play particularly well, at least if you learn something from it, and I think we did. This past Saturday, another quality opponent, a team that's picked to finish 3rd in their conference. We played significantly better, and this was on the road. Actually had a 1-point lead after 3 quarters and kind of had a little bit of a rough stretch in the 4th quarter. But it was good to see the progress we made, like I said, literally just in a week's time. And I think that both scrimmages kind of got our attention in terms of especially for a lot of our newcomers. I'm not sure they were quite ready for the speed or the intensity of Division I basketball, and I think they have a little better appreciation for that now. So, but like I said, we're excited about the progress we're making. Certainly going to help when we get Carissa Moody back to have a little bit more depth and again, a little more versatility. We've completely changed what we're doing offensively. We've kind of evolved into, I guess the fashionable term is the Princeton offense, if you will. So that's a big part of what we're doing offensively. A lot of 4 out, 1 in, where players 1 through 4 are really somewhat interchangeable in terms of what we're doing. Haven't changed too much defensively, but probably be a mixture of man-to-man and a matchup zone. But like I said, we like where we're at. We still need to get better. We feel as collectively as a team and speaking for our staff as a whole, I think we have more players that are just, quite frankly, into basketball and their personal performance and the team's performance, and that's obviously encouraging as well, too. So had a nice little team-building workshop yesterday and thought that went well, too, and like I said, really excited about what's ahead.
Looking at it, I don't know if starting over is the right term, but looking at it with 9 new starters, you guys have a little transition going in. That's nothing new. You guys have worked around this thing, but you seem more optimistic about that this year. Where does that come from?
Yeah, well, talent. that's where the optimism begins. Obviously, more talent. Like I said, deeper. I can't stress enough just. Like I said, having players that can just make plays, and I know Coach Richard understands what I'm getting at in terms of not having to. Having to run set plays continuously, to try to get a good shot. We've kind of loosened the reins a little bit, especially in transition and trusting their judgment. And again, I would say just a more competitive group as a whole. I think that is certainly, bringing out the best in each other. We still can be better, certainly. Everybody would tell you the same thing on November 7th, but I think that has a lot to do with it. And again, you can see, like I said, the size. We're probably across the board, maybe a couple inches taller, especially, like I said, it spots 1 through 4 than maybe what we've been in the last couple of years as well.
You faced a little adversity last year. Obviously, the year didn't go the way you wanted, but sometimes you can learn a lot from a season like that. What did you learn facing that adversity last year?
Well, I think, as much as anything else, you've got to surround yourself with kids that genuinely want to compete. And at times we struggled this year. It was something we addressed individually in meetings and team meetings, and at times when we'd fall behind and maybe not be as resilient as what we needed to be, quite frankly. It was, for what it's worth, I guess, encouraging at the end of the season, the final regular season game, senior day, playing Texas State, a team that had a lot on the line. Had they won that game, they end up as the number 3 seed going into the Sun Belt tournament. We beat them in a close game, obviously, and then fast forwarding a couple days later, we're playing Louisiana Lafayette. Obviously a solid program, a team that's been winning 20-plus games the last couple of years. We have a 5-point lead going into the 4th quarter, and so obviously we didn't finish the deal, but so at least we had a little bit of momentum there at the end, and so I do feel like I said, we've mixed some things up offensively a little bit around our personnel as well, but I just think obviously it starts with talent, but also talent that wants to compete. And I do think we've improved in both those areas.
Since you've been here, your team's been pretty low post oriented, and now that you guys are going to be running some of the Princeton, a lot of everything that comes with that. How has the role of your front court changed?
Well, again, except because of the Princeton, you're probably not going to feature as much, in the low post. Although, we'll still try to get, Diamond Brooks, some touches, a freshman post, like I said, and Tan Walker on occasion. But it's really more about, as we say, try to get downhill in terms of driving it, the occasional back cuts that you'll get on with the Princeton offense, and then threes. So it is a little bit more of a focus, maybe more so on perimeter play. College basketball and really, especially in women's college basketball, it's hard to have much success if you don't have good guard play. And I said, and we really, that hasn't been a strong point, just to be perfectly honest with you. The point guard position, I wouldn't say by any means has been a strong spot for us over the last few years, and or just guards in general. And like I said, I do think we've strengthened that not just making threes, but like I said, the ability to get in the paint and make plays.
Challenging schedule, but do you see some opportunities early on?
Yeah, obviously, of course, opening up Friday night, with Centenary, and then Monday night at Grambling, a team that knocked off Ole Miss in the NIT last year. That was a tough defeat for us last year. Again, a game that we led, I believe, going into the fourth quarter. And so they return a lot of their players. If I remember correctly, I think they went to the championship game of their conference tournament. And then beyond that, McNeese State is always a solid program, usually in the top 3 or 4 of the Southland Conference. So that's right after Thanksgiving. At Auburn, an NCAA tournament team. And then, at Louisiana Tech, obviously had a huge leap this past year, and Brooke Storr is obviously doing a great job. Rice, another postseason tournament team as well. And then, of course, Oklahoma State and a few others. So I think we'll definitely be more than ready for the Sun Belt. It's going to be, it's hard to say with the Sun Belt, a lot of new faces. But I think just on paper, you look at a UT Arlington with what they have coming back, preseason player of the year, and Rebecca Van Dyke at 6'5", a little bit different than what anybody else has. They did lose their point guard, transferred to a junior college after starting every game as a freshman, but probably have to be picked among the top teams in the league. Little Rock, always going to be there. 3 returning starters, and obviously Joe Foley does a great job. Louisiana Lafayette returns a lot. Troy is kind of the unknown. I think they lost 8 seniors, but they always bring in a lot of transfers, and having seen a few of those, I know they'll be pretty talented as well. But again, on paper, you would think those 4 teams would be the teams to beat. With us right now, there's definitely times when we look good enough that I know we could throw a scare into any of those 4 teams. Now, we also have, some lapses every now and again where, it's going to be a dogfight with anybody we play. And some of that's just going to, it's going to take time. And like I said, when you've got so many new players that are going to be in the rotation, and just having everybody kind of figure it out and maturing as a team and understanding the focus and the discipline and the competitiveness that you got to bring every day, I definitely have sensed a little bit more of a sense of urgency, I think, the closer we've got to the season opener. So that's encouraging.